The skies over Guadalcanal in late 1942 were a furnace of noise, smoke, and sunlight, a proving ground where engineering met survival. Here, in the first sustained air campaign between the U.S. Navy and Imperial Japan, the self-sealing fuel tank earned its baptism of fire. Each dawn saw F4F Wildcats clawing into the humid air from Henderson Field, their engines coughing against the tropical haze to meet waves of A6M Zeros sweeping down from Rabaul. The duels that followed were as fierce as any in aviation history. Whirling knots of speed and tracer fire fought over jungles and coral bays. American naval aviators soon began noticing something extraordinary. Their aircraft came back riddled with bullet holes, fuel lines slashed open, and yet, no flames. They would smell gasoline for a few seconds, watch the gauges drop, and then, nothing. The tanks bubbled, swelled, and sealed themselves even as the battle raged on. The leaks slowed, the fires never came, and the pilots lived to fly again the next day. Many spoke of the eerie moment when they realized the danger had passed, the faint hiss of escaping vapor giving way to silence, as if the plane itself had drawn a breath and healed. For the Japanese pilots of the 252nd Air Group, the contrast was brutal. Their Mitsubishi A6M Zeros, masterpieces of agility and range, were also death traps. Designed with every ounce of weight shaved away, they carried no armor and no self-sealing tanks. A single tracer round from an American .50 caliber Browning could turn them into spirals of burning wreckage within seconds. The sea around Guadalcanal became littered with oil slicks and fragments of their once feared fighters. In captured Japanese reports, one phrase appeared again and again: invisible armor. Mechanics could not understand how the American planes survived so many hits, nor how their own could perish so easily. For them, the battlefield itself seemed unfair. The Americans fought with the same courage, but their machines simply refused to die. By early 1943, the effect was undeniable. The self-sealing tank had quietly altered the balance of the Pacific War. Every pilot who made it back to Henderson Field carried not only his own survival, but also his experience, his skill, his growing confidence. Each saved life multiplied the effectiveness of the next mission. Each intact aircraft another blow against Japanese attrition. When the campaign finally ended, the few surviving Japanese mechanics sent their final reports home. They spoke not of tactics or heroics, but of an enemy whose machines were built to bleed, but not to burn. In that simple phrase lay the truth of Guadalcanal and the shape of the air war yet to come. Over Europe, the same quiet miracle that had saved lives in the Pacific was now rewriting the physics of survival. By 1943, the daylight skies over Germany had become the deadliest airspace on Earth. A realm where thousands of American bombers droned through walls of flak and fighters, wagering lives against altitude and precision. The Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress, with its broad wings and 4 thunderous Wright Cyclone engines, had become a symbol of that gamble. Yet within its armored frame lay a secret weapon invisible to the enemy, the self-sealing fuel tank. Each mission from bases in England meant hours of endurance, climbing through freezing air, watching the horizon light up with bursts of black flak, hearing the rattle of cannon shells striking metal. For every gunner and pilot, the greatest fear was not being shot down, but being set alight. A single hit to the fuel bay had doomed thousands of aircraft in earlier wars. But by mid-1943, reports from returning crews began to reveal something uncanny. B-17s limped back with fuel streaming from their wings, only for the leaks to slow, bubble, and stop. One Boeing field inspection noted a Fortress that had taken 12 direct hits to its fuel system from 20mm cannon fire. Yet it had landed safely, its tanks swollen and scarred but unburned. On the ground, Luftwaffe recovery units inspecting downed American bombers could scarcely believe what they found. Beneath the aluminum skin, the fuel cells were layered in dark tar-like sheets, elastic, gummy, and resistant even to open flame. German analysts described them as impervious to fire. noting with grudging respect that the material could not be replicated with existing Reich resources. Synthetic rubbers like Buna were already stretched thin by shortages. The complex adhesives used in Allied tanks were beyond German chemistry to reproduce under wartime pressure. The advantage extended beyond bombers. Fighters like the Republic P-47 Thunderbolt and the North American P-51 Mustang carried self-sealing tanks that made long-range escort missions possible. These aircraft could dive through flak clouds, strafe rail yards, and still make it back across the channel leaking fuel but alive. For the men inside, it meant more than safety. It meant confidence. The nightmare of burning over Bremen or Hamburg was no longer inevitable. From the ground, German gunners watched in frustration as black smoke trailed from the invaders, smoke that once would have meant fire and destruction, now only marking another aircraft on its way home. The Luftwaffe's intelligence briefings turned grim. Without access to equivalent materials, attrition would only worsen. Each mission the Allies flew, no matter how costly, returned more men than the last. In the skies over Europe, chemistry had become strategy, and survival had become one more front the Allies were winning.